There's a Filipino family you've never heard of that controls more land in Manila than any government could dream of owning. We're talking about billions of dollars in real estate, shopping malls you visit every week, and historic properties that have shaped the Philippine capital for over a century. But here's the shocking part. They've managed to stay almost completely invisible while building this empire. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal 3 things about this dynasty that will change how you see Manila forever. The first revelation involves a secret land grab that happened right under everyone's noses. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Manila isn't just any city. It's one of the most densely populated urban areas on the entire planet, where every square meter of land is worth its weight in gold. Now imagine owning not just a few buildings, but entire neighborhoods, massive shopping districts, and some of the most valuable commercial real estate in Southeast Asia. The Ordigas family has been doing exactly this since the early 1900s, but most Filipinos have no idea who they are. Unlike the flashy tycoons who appear in Forbes lists and society pages, the Ordigas clan operates in the shadows. They don't give interviews. They don't appear on TV. They simply collect rent from millions of people every single day. Their story begins with a single family member who saw an opportunity that nobody else recognized. He bought land when Manila was just a sleepy port town, and that decision would transform his descendants into one of Asia's wealthiest dynasties. Now here's where things get really interesting. The Ordigas Center, that massive business district where thousands of people work every single day, isn't named after some historical hero or government official. It's named after the family that owns most of it. Francisco Ordigas bought vast stretches of what people thought was worthless swampland in Pasig back in the 1920s. Everyone laughed at him. The area was remote, flooded during rainy season, and miles away from the city center. But Francisco had a vision that was decades ahead of his time. He understood something fundamental. Manila would grow, and when it did, it would grow eastward. He was absolutely right. Today, the Ordigas Center generates billions of pesos in revenue every single year. Megamall, one of the Philippines' largest shopping centers, sits on Ordigas land. Shangri-La Plaza, Ordigas land. The Podium? You guessed it. Countless office towers housing multinational corporations, banks, and tech companies all pay rent to the Ordigas family estate. When you grab coffee at Starbucks in Megamall or watch a movie at the cinema, a tiny portion of that money eventually flows to this family's coffers. But here's what makes this even more incredible. The family didn't just buy land and wait. They understood infrastructure. Francisco Ordigas personally financed roads, bridges, and utilities to make his land accessible and valuable. He essentially built an entire city district using his own money, knowing that the government and private developers would follow. This wasn't luck. This was genius-level strategic thinking that transformed worthless marshland into some of Asia's most expensive real estate. But if you think that's crazy, wait until you hear this. The Ordigas empire isn't controlled by one person or even one company. It's split among hundreds of heirs across multiple generations, all managed through a complex web of corporations and trusts that make it nearly impossible to track their total wealth. This is intentional. While other Filipino dynasties fight public battles over inheritance and control, the Ordigas family created a system that prevents any single person from destroying what they've built. The Ordigas and Company Limited Partnership is the main vehicle, but underneath it are layers upon layers of subsidiary companies, each controlling different parcels of land and properties. Some family members manage shopping centers. Others handle office leasing. Some oversee residential developments. This structure means that even if one branch of the family makes poor decisions, the core empire remains protected. It's business architecture at its finest. Here's something most people don't realize. The family doesn't actually sell much of their land. They lease it on long-term contracts, sometimes for 50 or 99 years. This means they maintain ownership while collecting steady income forever. When a company builds a skyscraper on Ordigas land, they're essentially renting the ground beneath it for decades. The building might change owners 10 times, but the land always stays with the Ordigas family. This is how generational wealth actually works. The numbers are staggering. Conservative estimates put the family's land holdings in Ordigas Center alone at over 50 hectares of prime commercial real estate. At current market prices, we're talking about values exceeding 100 billion pesos, and that's just one area. The family also controls significant properties in other parts of Metro Manila and beyond. When you factor in shopping centers, office buildings, and residential developments built on their land, the total empire could be worth several $billion. This brings us to the most shocking discovery of all. The Ordigas family has been so successful at staying invisible that most government officials don't even fully understand the extent of their holdings. There's no complete public registry of everything they own because it's spread across so many corporate entities. This isn't illegal, it's just incredibly sophisticated asset protection. While politicians come and go, while economic crises rise and fall, the Ordigas empire continues generating wealth completely immune to political drama. During World War II, when Manila was devastated and burned to the ground, the Ordigas family's land remained. Buildings were destroyed, but land is forever. After the war, they rebuilt and expanded. During the Marcos dictatorship, when other wealthy families were either targeted or co-opted by the regime, the Ordigas family kept their heads down and continued managing their properties. When people power happened and the government changed hands, the Ordigas empire was unaffected. Through every political upheaval, every economic crisis, every natural disaster, the land remained and the rent kept flowing. But here's what nobody talks about. This family essentially created the blueprint for how modern Filipino dynasties preserve wealth across generations. They showed that the key isn't flashy businesses or political power. It's land. Land in strategic locations. Land held through corporate structures that protect it from division and taxes. Land leased rather than sold. This strategy is now copied by virtually every major Filipino family trying to build lasting wealth. The genius of Francisco Ordigas wasn't just buying cheap land. It was understanding that in a rapidly developing country, urban land near the capital would become the most valuable asset possible. He bought when prices were measured in centavos per square meter. His descendants now collect rent measured in thousands of pesos per square meter. That's not just a good investment. That's a multi-generational wealth transfer that most people can't even comprehend. The Ordigas story reveals something uncomfortable about wealth and power in the Philippines. While politicians argue about policies and businesses compete in the marketplace, the real power lies with families who control essential urban land. This isn't unique to the Philippines, but it's particularly concentrated in Manila because the city is geographically constrained and incredibly dense. For ordinary Filipinos, this means that a portion of almost every economic transaction in Ordigas Center ultimately enriches this one family. When companies create jobs there, when people shop there, when businesses lease office space there, money flows upward to the landowners. This is passive income at a scale most people never witness. The family doesn't have to work, innovate, or compete. They simply own the ground beneath the city. This also explains why Manila property prices keep rising far beyond what ordinary people can afford. When land is concentrated in the hands of a few families who never sell, supply remains permanently constrained. These families have no incentive to flood the market with affordable land because scarcity keeps values high. It's economically rational for them, but it makes homeownership impossible for millions of Filipinos. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. The youngest generation of the Ordigas family is now taking control, and they're making moves that suggest the empire is about to expand in new directions. They're developing mixed-use properties, sustainable buildings, and tech-focused office spaces. They're adapting to the modern economy while maintaining their core strategy. Own the land, lease the space, collect forever. What started as one man's controversial land purchase in the 1920s has become a multi-billion-dollar empire that shapes how millions of people live and work. The Ordigas family proved that in the Philippines, the path to lasting wealth isn't through politics or even traditional business. It's through strategic land ownership protected by smart corporate structures and patient, generational thinking. Next time you walk through Ordigas Center, look around and remember, almost everything you see sits on land owned by one family who've managed to stay invisible while building an empire that will last for centuries. That's the real power in the Philippines, the power you never see.